Good evening all, and welcome back to Dr. Spooky. The night is dark. The stories are real. Tonight, I have a story for you that will crawl under your skin and stay there long after you turn off the lights. A case where an ordinary woman accepted ordinary invitations from a book club that should never have existed. 2018, upstate New York, Saranac Lake in Essex County, where winter lasts 6 months and the silence is absolute, where small towns circle their wagons against outsiders, where something ancient hides behind book clubs and cream-colored envelopes. This is not a campfire tale. This is documented horror. Real people, real terror, real evidence the authorities refuse to touch. If you are alone right now, good. You will need the silence to hear every disturbing detail. If you are about to sleep, think again. This story does not let go easily. Subscribe to Dr. Spooky if you crave the kind of fear that feels real. Because it is. Turn on those notifications. The darkness has more stories to tell. And I will be here to guide you through every terrifying moment. Now, turn down your lights. Take a breath. And let me tell you about the Riverside Book Club and the woman who asked too many questions. What happened in the Adirondacks stays in the Adirondacks, but tonight we are going there anyway. Rebecca Martinez had spent her entire adult life chasing tenure at Columbia University. And when the rejection letter arrived in March 2018, something inside her simply broke. At 41, she had sacrificed relationships, health, and any semblance of work-life balance for a position that would never be hers. The panic attacks that followed made returning to the city impossible. When her therapist suggested a complete change of environment, Rebecca started searching for places where academic ambition meant nothing and no one knew her name. She found the cottage in Saranac Lake, Essex County, through an online listing that seemed almost too perfect. A 2-bedroom arts and crafts bungalow on a quiet street called Riverside Drive, where the monthly rent was less than what she'd been spending on coffee in Manhattan. The landlord, a retired schoolteacher named Marion Fletcher, met her at the property on a gray April afternoon and handed over the keys with a warm smile that felt genuine after years of fake academic pleasantries. Marion was 68 years old with silver haircut and a practical bob, and an accent that marked her as a lifelong North Country resident. She told Rebecca that the previous tenant had been called away suddenly for family reasons, that the house was fully furnished, and that Saranac Lake was the kind of town where neighbors still looked out for each other. Rebecca, exhausted from the drive and eager to begin her new life, signed the lease that same afternoon without asking why a fully furnished house in such a desirable location sat empty for months. The house itself exceeded her expectations. Hardwood floors throughout, built-in bookshelves in the living room, a stone fireplace that dominated one wall, and large windows that overlooked the Saranac River. The furniture was dated but comfortable, the kitchen appliances worked, and the second bedroom made a perfect home office. Rebecca spent her first week unpacking her books and setting up her laptop, preparing to finally work on the novel she had been promising herself she would write for 15 years. The town welcomed her with the cautious friendliness small communities extend to outsiders. She discovered an excellent coffee shop called Lakeview Roasters, a well-stocked library, and hiking trails that wound through forests so quiet she could hear her own heartbeat. The adjustment from Manhattan was jarring, but Rebecca convinced herself that the isolation was exactly what she needed to heal. On her 10th day in Saranac Lake, Rebecca received her first piece of mail that was not addressed to her. It was a cream-colored envelope with her address but a different name. Olivia Brennan. The handwriting was elegant, almost calligraphic, and there was no return address. Rebecca set it aside, planning to give it to Marion when they met for the monthly rent payment. The second envelope arrived 3 days later, also for Olivia Brennan, then a third, then a fourth, all in the same elegant handwriting, all with no return address. Rebecca called Marion to ask about forwarding the mail, and there was a long pause before Marion said that Olivia had been the previous tenant, that she had left no forwarding address, and that Rebecca should just throw the letters away. The abruptness in Marion's tone was jarring enough that Rebecca ended the call feeling uneasy. But throwing away someone else's mail felt wrong, so Rebecca opened one of the envelopes. Inside was a single sheet of cream-colored stationery with a brief message written in the same elegant handwriting. Dear Olivia, we missed you at Tuesday's gathering. The discussion of the Shirley Jackson was particularly enlightening, and Susan brought her famous lemon cake. We do hope you will join us next week. The group is not the same without you. With warm regards, the Riverside Book Club. Rebecca found herself oddly charmed. A book club invitation seemed harmlessly quaint, the kind of thing that happened in small towns. But something about the phrasing troubled her. The group is not the same without you felt more like an obligation than an invitation. And why send invitations through the mail instead of calling or emailing? Over the next 2 weeks, Rebecca received 5 more letters for Olivia Brennan, all from the Riverside Book Club, all expressing variations of "we missed you and we hope you will return." The tone shifted subtly with each letter, from polite invitation to concerned inquiry to something that felt almost like reproach. The most recent letter, which arrived on a Thursday in late April, included a handwritten note at the bottom. Olivia, your absence has been noted. We meet every Tuesday at 7 p.m. You know where. Rebecca called Marion again. This time she asked directly, "What happened to Olivia Brennan? And why is this book club sending letters to my address?" There was a longer pause. Then Marion said, very carefully, that Olivia had been an excellent tenant who had left suddenly in December, that Marion did not know anything about a book club, and that Rebecca should really just discard the letters. When Rebecca pressed for more information, Marion said she had another call coming in and hung up. That evening, Rebecca did what any former academic would do. She researched. She searched online for Olivia Brennan's Saranac Lake and found nothing. She searched for Riverside Book Club Saranac Lake and found nothing. She checked the local library website, the community center calendar, even Facebook groups for local organizations. No mention of any book club that met on Tuesdays. Rebecca walked to the Saranac Lake Library the next morning and asked the librarian, a pleasant woman in her 50s, if she knew anything about a book club that met in town. The librarian's expression changed instantly. She said there were several book clubs in Saranac Lake, but she was not familiar with any called the Riverside Book Club. When Rebecca mentioned receiving letters about it, the librarian became visibly uncomfortable and suggested Rebecca speak with the postmaster if she was concerned about misdirected mail. The evasiveness was becoming a pattern. Everyone Rebecca asked about the book club either claimed ignorance or changed the subject. At the coffee shop, the barista suddenly became busy with other customers. At the grocery store, the cashier said she did not involve herself in local clubs. The woman who lived next door to Rebecca's cottage, an elderly widow named Dorothy Chen, actually closed her door in Rebecca's face when she tried to ask about it. On the first Tuesday in May, Rebecca decided to find out for herself. The most recent letter had said, "You know where," which was not helpful. But Rebecca reasoned that a group calling itself the Riverside Book Club would likely meet somewhere near the Saranac River. She spent the afternoon walking along Riverside Drive, noting every house, every building, anything that might serve as a meeting place. At 6:45 that evening, Rebecca positioned herself at a coffee shop across from the intersection of Riverside Drive and Broadway, with a clear view of both streets. At 6:50, she saw the first woman walking purposefully down Riverside Drive, carrying what looked like a book. Then another woman. Then 2 more. All walking in the same direction, all carrying books, all heading toward a large Victorian house that sat at the end of Riverside Drive, where it dead-ended at the riverbank. Rebecca followed at a distance, her heart beating faster than the walk warranted. The Victorian house was painted dark green with black shutters, and every window glowed with warm light. The women knocked at the front door in a specific pattern. 3 quick knocks, a pause, then 2 more, and were admitted immediately. Rebecca watched from behind a large oak tree as 6 women entered the house over the next 10 minutes. All appeared to be between 50 and 70 years old. All carried books. All used the same knock pattern. At 7 o'clock exactly, the front door closed, and Rebecca heard the distinct sound of a deadbolt sliding into place. She stood in the darkness for another hour, watching the house. The curtains were drawn, but she could see shadows moving inside. No sounds escaped, not even muffled conversation. At 8:30, she finally walked home, more confused than ever. Why was a simple book club causing such strange reactions from everyone in town? And why had no one mentioned it existed when she asked about it directly? The next morning, Rebecca received another letter. This one was different. The envelope was black instead of cream, and when she opened it, the message inside made her hands shake. Dear Olivia, your absence at last night's gathering has forced us to take action we had hoped to avoid. We know you have been replaced. We know the new resident has been asking questions. Tell her to stop. Tell her some books are meant to remain closed. This is the only warning she will receive. The Riverside Book Club. Rebecca sat at her kitchen table staring at the letter for a long time. We know you have been replaced, suggested the book club knew Olivia was gone. Tell her to stop meant they somehow knew Rebecca had been asking about them. And this is the only warning she will receive was an unmistakable threat. She called Marion Fletcher immediately. When Marion answered, Rebecca read the entire letter aloud. There was a long silence, and then Marion said something that chilled Rebecca more than the letter itself. Rebecca, I'm going to tell you something that might make you think I am crazy, but you need to listen. Pack your things, break the lease. I will refund your deposit and last month's rent. Leave Saranac Lake today. Do not ask me any more questions. Just go. What happened to Olivia Brennan? Rebecca asked. I do not know, Marion said, and Rebecca believed her. I rented the house to her in August. She was a nice woman, quiet, kept to herself. In November, she started receiving letters from that book club. She asked me about it just like you did. I told her the same thing I am telling you. Some things in small towns are better left alone. She did not listen. In December, I went to collect rent and the house was empty. All her belongings were gone. Her car was gone. She just vanished. I reported it to the police, but they said she was an adult who had the right to leave. They did not investigate. And you rented the house to me anyway? Rebecca's voice rose. I needed a tenant, and I thought maybe it was just a coincidence, but now I know it was not. Rebecca, please, just leave. Rebecca hung up and sat very still, processing what she had learned. A woman who lived in this house before her had received the same letters, asked the same questions, and then disappeared. The police had not investigated, and everyone in town either knew about the book club and would not speak about it, or genuinely knew nothing because the book club operated in complete secrecy. She did what she should have done when Marion first warned her. She started packing. But as she was loading boxes into her car that afternoon, Dorothy Chen, the elderly neighbor who had shut her door on Rebecca days earlier, hurried across the lawn. You're leaving, Dorothy said, not a question. Yes, Rebecca replied. Good. Dorothy looked around nervously as if checking whether anyone was watching. Then she leaned closer and whispered, Olivia was my friend. We had coffee together sometimes. She was a sweet girl, worked remotely for some tech company. When those letters started coming, she got curious just like you. She went to one of their meetings, knocked on the door of that green house. They let her in. She came back 3 hours later, and she was different. Scared. She would not tell me what happened in there. 2 weeks later, she was gone. Middle of the night. No note, no goodbye, just gone. What is the book club? Rebecca asked. What do they really do? Dorothy's eyes filled with tears. I do not know. No one does. They have been meeting in that house for over 30 years. Always Tuesday nights, always the same women, though sometimes one dies and a new one takes her place. My sister Martha joined them back in 1995. Within 6 months, she was not Martha anymore. She stopped talking to me, stopped talking to her own children. She moved into that green house and we never saw her outside of it again. She died in 2010. And I was not even invited to the funeral. The book club handled everything. Have you told the police? Rebecca asked. Of course I have, Dorothy said bitterly, multiple times. They say there is no law against a social club meeting in someone's house. They say Martha made her choices as an adult. They say Olivia left voluntarily. They will not investigate because half the officers' wives are in that damn book club. Rebecca felt ice form in her stomach. The police wives are members? Dorothy nodded. The mayor's wife, the fire chief's wife, the president of the school board. Women you do not cross in a town this size, and they protect each other. Always have. That night, Rebecca should have driven away. Instead, she did something stupid that she would regret for the rest of her life. She went back to the green Victorian house. It was just after midnight. The house was dark except for a single light in an upper window. Rebecca walked to the front door and stood there for a long moment. Her hand raised to knock. She told herself she was being ridiculous, that Dorothy Chen was a frightened old woman who had watched too many horror movies, that the book club was probably just a group of eccentric older women who liked their privacy. But then she remembered Olivia Brennan, who had knocked on the same door and come back changed, who had disappeared 2 weeks later. Rebecca lowered her hand and turned to walk away. The door opened behind her. A woman stood in the doorway. She looked to be about 60, with gray hair pulled back in a severe bun and eyes that held no warmth whatsoever. She wore a dark blue dress that looked like it belonged to another era, and she held a hardcover book in her left hand. Rebecca Martinez, the woman said, not a question. How do you know my name? Rebecca's voice shook. We know everything about our neighbors on Riverside Drive. We knew about you before you moved in. We have been waiting to see if you would be suitable. Suitable for what? The woman smiled, and it was the coldest expression Rebecca had ever seen on a human face. Come inside. We can explain everything. We can show you what Olivia Brennan saw. We can offer you what we offered her. And if I say no, then you will do what Marion Fletcher told you to do. You will leave. Tonight. And you will never speak of the Riverside Book Club again. Those are your only 2 options. Rebecca looked past the woman into the house. She could see a long hallway with doors on either side, all closed. She could see stairs leading up to darkness. She could hear nothing, no voices, no movement, just silence. What happened to Olivia? Rebecca asked. She made her choice, the woman said, just as you are about to make yours. Rebecca turned and ran. She ran back to her cottage, threw the last of her belongings into her car, and drove out of Saranac Lake at 1:30 in the morning. She did not stop until she reached Albany, 150 miles away. She checked into a motel and spent the next 3 days searching online for any trace of Olivia Brennan. She found nothing. No social media profiles, no employment records, no death certificate. Olivia Brennan had simply ceased to exist. Rebecca filed a missing person report with the New York State Police. She told them everything. The letters, the book club, Dorothy Chen's account of her sister, the encounter at the greenhouse. The investigator listened politely and promised to look into it. When Rebecca called back 2 weeks later, she was told that Olivia Brennan had been located alive and well, living in California, and had requested that no one contact her. When Rebecca asked for proof, she was told that was confidential information. Marion Fletcher never returned Rebecca's security deposit. When Rebecca tried to call her, the number was disconnected. When she searched for Marion online, she found an obituary from June 2018. Marion Fletcher, aged 68, had died peacefully at home after a brief illness. Services had been private. In lieu of flowers, donations could be made to the Saranac Lake Public Library. Rebecca never went back to Saranac Lake. She moved to Syracuse and found work as a freelance editor. But she could not stop thinking about the green Victorian house on Riverside Drive, about the women who met there every Tuesday night, about the books they discussed and the choices they offered. 6 months after leaving Saranac Lake, Rebecca received a package in the mail. Inside was a single hardcover book, The Lottery by Shirley Jackson. No note, no return address. But on the title page, written in elegant handwriting, was a brief inscription. Dear Rebecca, you made your choice. Some do not get the opportunity to choose again, but you will. When you are ready, you know where to find us. Until then, we are always reading. The Riverside Book Club. Rebecca burned the book that same night, but she still dreams about that green house, about the woman in the doorway, about Olivia Brennan, who knocked on that door and came back changed. And she wonders, sometimes late at night when sleep will not come, what choice Olivia made, and whether the person living in California under that name is really Olivia Brennan at all, or something else entirely. Rebecca Martinez escaped Saranac Lake that night, but did she truly escape? The Riverside Book Club still meets every Tuesday. The green Victorian house still sits at the end of Riverside Drive, and every few years, a new woman joins their discussions. Some come willingly, some do not, but they all make their choice eventually. New York State Police still list Olivia Brennan as voluntarily missing. The file stays open, but no one is looking. And in a small town in the Adirondacks, no one asks questions, because some doors are better left unopened, and some books are better left unread. This is the reality of true horror. It does not wrap up neatly with explanations. It does not give you closure before bedtime. Sometimes the darkness wins. Sometimes people do not come home. And sometimes the ones who do were never allowed to leave. I am Dr. Spooky, and this case is now closed for tonight. But the questions? They stay with you. They follow you to bed. They whisper when the house is quiet. If this story crawled under your skin the way it did mine, then you understand why I do this. Subscribe to Dr. Spooky for more true horror that refuses to be forgotten. Hit that notification bell, because the darkness has more stories to tell, and I will be your guide through every terrifying moment. Share your theories in the comments. Did Rebecca truly escape, or is she already being readied for the next gathering? The night is dark, the stories are real, and I will see you when the next case opens. Until then, stay safe out there. This is Dr. Spooky signing off. Sleep well if you can.